Hey everyone, welcome back to BMX News. This is a weekly BMX news show where I talk about everything that happened in the previous week within the world of BMX that I think you guys might care about. That being said, before we get into talking about how the blank giant topic going on right now is affecting the BMX industry, let's talk about Shawn Burns for a minute, because if you guys didn't know, Shawn Burns literally broke his back. He had to have surgery, and apparently, according to this article on BMX Union, he lost feeling below his legs, but with surgery, they were able to get his legs working again. I don't know all of the details. I just know that there's a link in the description below. It's the first thing down there to a GoFundMe to help out Shawn Burns. It looks like there's a lot of people rallying together to help him out, and I know things are crazy right now. Money's tight with pretty much everyone everywhere. But if enough people chip in and help, they can maybe speed up this process and get Shawn Burns walking in on his bike again as soon as possible. So now let's talk about this giant thing that's going on right now that I told you guys last week I wasn't going to say the name of directly because YouTube was demonetizing videos talking about it. Well, they're slowly remonetizing these videos, but I'm not going to risk it yet. So giant thing and how it affects the BMX industry. Our BMX did a huge in-depth write-up about how it affects most aspects of the BMX industry, starting with events. I told you guys last week, all these different events were like canceled, postponed. Well, there is a huge list of them in this write-up. So many X Games we already talked about. Ultimate X in South Africa shut down. All Day Jam in San Diego, Hypers Jam that we already talked about, a local trail jam in Arizona. Swampfest is something that we're about to talk about in a second. Full Factory canceled their March Madness jam and warehouse sale that they normally have, but they are still having the sale on their website. Toyota Triple Challenge in Denver canceled. Just so many different events and things that are canceled or postponed because of this. Another aspect of this that I hadn't really thought of yet with the BMX industry is team trips and how they would be affected. As you can imagine, most all of them are postponed or canceled right now. A few examples in here from Kink, Fiend, and Madeira. There's also a write-up from Mike Hinkins in here and a story that's kind of insane. Feels like it's out of a movie because these guys, the entire Madeira team basically, was in Sacramento, California, and they were riding and they had the idea to go to this campus, and then someone brought up, well, hey, that's the place where someone being treated has this thing right now. Kinda insane. So if you want to read more in depth and get the exact story instead of me just translating it, hit the link in the description below. Another thing that I didn't really think super in depth about until I read this was product production. This is something that a person who wanted to remain anonymous typing in here talked about how just small disturbances can have a huge impact on the entire process of a product. So basically what he talks about in here, I'm assuming it's a he, is that one factory assembles bikes but gets frames, tires, cranks from another factory, and then there's things like head tubes and dropouts for frames that come from one factory and need to go to one to the other to be put together, and just things of that nature. Not everything is made in the exact same place. So all these different parts have to come together from all these different places. And as you can imagine, over in China where a lot of this stuff is made, not all of it because Taiwan hasn't been hit as hard as China, but still one place being closed down that makes components for different aspects of BMX parts completely has a giant effect on the end result, as in you getting the product that you want to buy. So there are going to be delays, and this is another one you have to go and read this because it kind of just puts in perspective what can go into making a product in general and how these small delays, even if they're not caused by something this huge going on in the world, can have on getting parts to people and the company in general to sell the parts and bike shops, and how it kind of just has this trickle down ripple effect onto everyone. When it comes to product production here in the US, it's kind of a similar story because of the fact that things are shutting down literally everywhere. Companies like Fit, S&M, Profile, ODI are having these issues because they have the similar supply chain. A company has to get this stuff out of the ground, then they have to put it in a form for someone like Profile to machine it into a hub. So if anyone under that can't get their job done because they're shut down, then Profile can't get the materials to make the product. Profile doesn't outsource as much, but they do outsource for things like anodizing too. So certain colors for things won't be available if their anodizing company shuts down for a period of time. So US companies are definitely affected by this, but not quite on the same scale yet as companies overseas. But as stated in this write-up, things in China are slowly starting to get back to whatever normal is, and they're starting to ramp back up production. So it could be possible to see a turn in things where this is how much China was affected a month ago. it's going back down to normal as the US is getting crazier and crazier and everything is getting shut down, and just gets affected that much more for US companies like California, who just pretty much ordered everyone to stay at home. I don't know how that's going to affect S&M and Fit, but I would imagine it's probably not going to be good, and it's probably not the first and only state that that's going to happen with, except for maybe Florida, because we all know Florida is crazy and just does whatever it wants to. But that's it for the topics covered in here. They have a verdict in there, and basically all that they want to say is go ride your bike by yourself or social distance yourself from your friends whenever you're riding. Just be safe and be smart. And then I wanted to talk about Swampfest for a second. I did mention it earlier, but I want to talk about it specifically in that it has been postponed to May 23rd. I'm glad that Trey decided to do this. It's the smartest option because everyone's getting shut down. And if he didn't do that when he did, people would probably get even more mad because we're getting to a point where no one is doing anything. And it's pretty clear that Swampfest would have had to have something happen with it. So I'm glad he was smart about it, but I don't know if it was far enough into the future to postpone it. That's only a month away now. And I don't think we're a month out from people just traveling across the entire world to get to an event. So hopefully if this does get postponed and pushed further back, he does it sooner than later so that people can make the plans that they need to, and that things can just completely calm down around the entire world. We can have the best event possible without literally having to worry at all. And with that being said, if it stays May 23rd, I'm still probably not going to go because I don't think that that's far enough out in the future for me to feel comfortable going down there. And after that, let's talk about some videos from this week as soon as I watch them. First up, we've got a video with Brandon Began in Barcelona from Merritt. And all I really want to say about Brandon Began is that he is so good at maneuvering his bike, just in general, especially in ways that seem like they just wouldn't work or would be super hard to do. A perfect example of this is a clip that I literally had to watch back like 3 times just to understand what's going on. And I usually don't have to do that, especially not 3 or 4 times like I did. But this clip was a feeble grind to drop down unlucky to 180. And I just completely couldn't comprehend what was going on because he dropped down to this unlucky at the very end of the ledge, and he started the 180 like after his front peg went off. So he basically 180'd off of his pedal on a ledge, because if you guys didn't know, an unlucky is front peg on a ledge with your pedal, the opposite of a lucky. And how he 180'd out of that, like basically just off of his pedal, I have no idea. And he's constantly doing stuff like that. It's pretty cool to watch, and I'm gonna stop talking about this video before I end up talking about it for longer than it is. I definitely think you guys should check it out though. Then we shift from creative BMX street riding to creative BMX park riding with Alex Hiam's Aeterna section from Lux BMX. This is a DVD part, and holy crap. If you guys want to see some insane lip tricks, this is the video to watch. Alex Hiam seems to be one of the most dialed lip trick riders out there in the brakeless side of things. He did in here, I can't even like explain this trick properly, honestly. He did like a 270 down whip or a decade to Smith to like hard 270 fakie, and then did like a half cab down whip out of it. And this was on a quarter pipe, faking to another quarter pipe and doing the down whip, half cab, whatever it was on the other side. So we put all that together in one combo and managed to make it happen. Then there's some other crazy stuff in here. One of my favorite things that Alex Hiam seems to be really dialed at is 450 to peg stalls on subs. He did 450 to feeble on a sub out of a quarter to hard 270 to fakie back into it. Crazy stuff. He did one of the most perfect over toothpick 270s I've ever seen. There was also some pretty awesome street stuff in here as well. A gap to second stage rail, as well as a huge tail whip down some stairs, half cab down a pretty big set. And I'm going to say every single trick in here if I keep talking about it. So if you guys want to watch it and any of that sounds cool to you, check it out in the description below. Then after that, we've got the totally opposite side of the spectrum. We've got a video with Kenneth Tencio called Bangers and Olympic Mentality. And there's a lot of resi stuff in here, but there's so much really good riding, and I know some of you like that park riding aesthetic, so I figured I would throw it in here for those of you who wanted to see it and to just kind of round out the videos for this week. After that, we can talk about some product related stuff. The first thing here is Trey Jones' new signature seat from Shadow. This is the Penumbra railed drop nose seat, and as you can see, it is unlike anything else that you can buy today in BMX. And what's cool about it is that it's the signature seat of someone who's under the age of 30. So I'm sure that there's a lot of you older guys who watch this BMX news video. They're going to be psyched on this one. So let me know in the comments down below if any of you are going to be picking it up. And let's move on to the next product thing. It is the matte pale mint colorway from Kink. And as you can see, it looks pretty sweet. I wish they would have color balanced it so that the background wasn't like the same color green as the products. Either way, that's just the photographer in me being nitpicky. It comes on the hemlock pedals, the Eastman guard sprocket, the lightest bar ends, the high-rise stem, stealth, and pivotal seat posts, as well as their integrated 2 headset. So if any of that sounds cool to you, you know where to find it. And then that brings us into the interview section from this week, where we've got a couple product-ish related things to talk about. In that, there's 2 video bike checks, and those are all about the products. So first, we've got Mike Hoder's video bike check from S&M, where he's talking about the new BTM XL frame and bike that he's riding, and look at that seat post. Oh my goodness. And then after that, we've got a video bike check with Dan Kruk. So same story there, except he's got crazy bars instead of a super high seat post. If you guys are interested in those whatsoever, like I keep saying, you know where to find it. It's all there in the order that I talk about it down in the description below. And then we've got a couple written interviews over on Our BMX. The first one is called Stuck Overseas, Brian Kachinsky's blank travel experience. I read through this entire thing. It's pretty long, but it goes in depth with his entire story, because he was over in Lisbon, Portugal while this stuff was developing, and while they put that travel ban in place, and while no one knew what was going on, and no one knew that US citizens were exempt from this travel ban, and he had no idea what was going on. At one point in time in this whole journey, he was offered to either pay $1,000 for a ticket home that day or wait 2 days for a free ticket home. He opted to wait those 2 days, and I cannot imagine being Brian Kachinsky in a hotel waiting 2 days, having no idea if everything else was going to get canceled, if travel was going to be completely canceled, he was going to be stuck. He ended up getting home and everything was okay. He's in self-quarantine right now just to be safe, because he was over across seas going through airports, multiple airports in the US, and that's just the smart thing to do, and he realizes that. So check this one out. I definitely think it's worth the read. And then after that, we've got kind of a different direction with a written interview. This one is a new series from Our BMX called P's and Q's. It's with Pat Quinn, and he's interviewing people. It's called Street Riding Rituals with Mad Mike. So in this, he's just asking simple questions like, what do you do whenever you go to ride? How do you pick where you're gonna ride? What do you do before you actually ride? And things of that nature. So if you guys have any interest in this and hearing from Mad Mike, so check that one out if it sounds interesting to you. And in refreshing the page just now, I saw that there's a new video out called Source Park Breakin with Alex Kennedy. If you guys want to check that one out, I will have it linked in the description below. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, so I'm going to check it out, and I'll come back in just a second. And speaking of riders who move their bike in ways that look like it should just not work or not be anywhere near as easy as they make it look, Alex Kennedy is exactly that, and this video is completely full of tricks. They're exactly that. A few standout tricks though that weren't that style but did make me get really excited were just the fact that he put X-ups in so many random places. He did an X-up ice pick grind, he jumped up and did an X-up manual for a second, he did a 360 X-up, and then he also did a no foot can to feeble grind. I love that. It's awesome to see more than just bar spins in and out of things, and the fact that he's throwing X-ups in there and no foot cans before grinds just really gets me hopeful that people start doing more than just bar spins into and out of stuff, and we see more unconventional-ish tricks in the streets. If you have any input on anything that I talked about today, especially the first thing where we talked about the whole giant blank thing and how it's affecting the BMX industry, let me know in the comments down below, and definitely get over there and read that write-up just so you can get kind of an understanding of the whole product chain within the BMX world. So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe here if you're new or you haven't yet, so that hopefully we can see you tomorrow for another video. And I'm going to stop talking this fast and go ride my bike. No, just kidding. I'm going to edit this video now. Goodbye.